Hello, how you doing? Hello, everybody. What's up out there? Hope you're having a good holiday. I want to show you this video about sellouts and people, want to turn their back on their own community.
Boom. Black creators are selling out for views by Exo Speaks. Now, this is one of those topics that I feel like is just gonna be it's just gonna be a great conversation piece, right? Because we could say that this is true. We could say that lots of people do sell out for views or they change how they need to be to appear more attractive on the algorithm. Do you guys think this is by design? Like they are targeting these markets on purpose because they know it's easier to grow? Or do you think it has something to do with the algorithm itself? Let me know what you think. Let's get into it, man.
I hate Nick. I hate you, Nick.
Whoa.
I don't like y'all. Y'all are not allowed to breathe near me. Y'all are not allowed to look at me.
Plus one more follower. Thank you for your courage.
Not gonna lie, that's an insane TikTok, Instagram reel, whatever she posted this shit on. That's probably TikTok, right? This was actually just insane. Why, dude? Why do you why would you even need to do this to I'm not getting it. This is kind of confusing.
Protect her at all costs. God bless and protect you.
Not much easy, cause I might not got it. They kills me with that shit. Damn, tell me a price is little.
Join the more than 7 million adults, like Maria, who've taken Ozempic.
I was diagnosed with type 2 diabetes 10 years ago. It was overwhelming.
That's a victim mentality.
Right.
It's time to stop blaming everyone else but ourselves for our lives and our actions. I damn sure can't help what someone does too.
He doesn't say this to white people, though. Right? This is the thing that always gets me, man. You have white people struggling to buy homes. You have white people struggling to make ends meet, and yet you will never hear a single conservative say that the problem is those white people aren't trying hard enough. No, to their white base, these Republicans, these conservatives, the problem is always policy. It's always the system. Oh, we need to cut taxes for the wealthy because that's how it's going to create more jobs for you. They don't say, hey, how about you go to school and become more skilled? You'll never hear that. But black people who have been historically oppressed and attacked and brutalized in this country, if you need things to get better for your situation, well, then it's all on you. Interesting, right? We're back at it. The Price of Self-Respect by Pillboy. This is an hour-long video. We've been reacting to it in parts. Yesterday, I dropped the reaction to the first part where we talked about the jester, right? He's basically going through all the various types of black sellouts. And we talked about the jester, thinking badge, right? Think black people who make fun of their blackness at the expense of their own self-respect so that they can get white laughs, white money, white approval. Well, now we're going to go into another archetype of the raccoon, the knight. Let's dive in.
But the jester is only one side of the coin. We then have the knight. Well, one is an entertainer, the other is an enforcer. Unlike the jester, the knight doesn't play for laugh, instead aligning themselves with whiteness and defending the very systems that harm their own people.
Right.
They're the moral enforcer, preaching discipline, respectability, and obedience. If the jester reassures white audiences that blackness is laughable, the knight reassures them that the real problem isn't racism, it's other black people and their culture. Just this minstrelsy created the blueprint for the jester, the knight was born from slavery itself. On the plantation, you had slaves that were elevated.
Essentially, it sounds like the knight is the black person who wants to be white. That's essentially what it is. Whereas the jester is the black person who is very much not trying to be white, but makes fun of being black, right? Makes fun of himself, makes fun of other black people, makes fun and light of black stereotypes for white chuckles. Got it.
Others, not out of kindness or merit, but as a tool of control, being rewarded with scraps of comfort for loyalty and used to police other enslaved people. You begin to see the earliest form of the knight, a black figure whose very survival depended on protecting the master's interests. After emancipation, this role transforms. White elites paraded formerly enslaved people who praised their masters as benevolent, framing bondage as a civilizing institution. For example,
So you left Mr. Fuzzy on the plane?
Well, I think we all left Mr. Fuzzy on the plane. Okay.
So far, this seems pretty interesting. What he pointed out about the sellouts, but But there's another narrative to this, selling out for it. But guess what kind of people they want to sell out to? To people like this.
Omar Fateh was Ilhan Omar's candidate for mayor of Mogadishu. Minneapolis.
If you watch my content for any amount of time at all, you could probably finish this sentence or say it along with me. The Republican Party is the largest, most effective white supremacy organization on planet Earth. I've said it hundreds of times, very likely. Certainly dozens and dozens of times. And it's true. And the more desperate the Republican Party gets and comfortable with the power that they now have in the federal government, the more open they are about it. This morning, James Comer, congressman for the 1st District of Kentucky, went on with Newsmax and was talking about the new target of the Republican Party, Somali Americans. American citizens who are of Somali descent and also migrants who are not yet citizens but are legal residents of the country. It's now the new whipping boy. It's now the new scapegoat for the Republican Party. All of your problems, Republicans say, are because of Somali immigrants. All of your problems, the reason the rent is high is because of black and brown migrants to the country. And you must know this. It's white supremacy. It's a white power talking point that is now mainstreamed. Just because you put a suit on doesn't make you less virulently racist than some toothless hillbilly in the KKK. They're part and parcel. They are the same thing. One in the same. You just slap a coat of paint on one doesn't make it less bad. Here's James Comer, then we're going to get into some detail about his particular district and the welfare rates there.
Because they don't want to offend that population. And the early numbers that I'm getting in on the Somalis in Minnesota is 75% of the Somalis in Minnesota are on full government assistance. That's full welfare. The whole reason that the Democrats left the border open during the Biden administration was to allow people to come in and what they said would provide jobs, because there's a shortage of workers. And I agree there's a shortage of workers. But you got a massive population in that one state. And the overwhelming majority of that population is on Medicaid and then and other types of government programs. Even when Democrats say there are no illegals on Medicaid, I think that's going to be proven to be false.
Look in Minnesota. Right.
Yeah.
Chairman.
Okay, first of all, those figures, just based on his wiggle room language, his weasel language, his uncertain language, those figures are lies. And what's interesting about this is it's another thing. It's just like Ronald Reagan. He had a campaign event, I think, in Hollywood, Mississippi, where he talked about welfare queens and really just put a nail in the coffin, just solidified the Southern strategy in the 80s. But they would have you believe that if good old boys, white people in Kentucky, if they get welfare, that's okay. Them's Americans. But for black people, oh no, you don't get any public assistance. That's welfare queen. That's fraud. That's abuse. That's unnecessary. That's unneeded. That's a scam. This is racism. This is white supremacy on full display. Here is James Comer's district. Let's put it up. One, this district of James Comer, look at the shape of that. That is gerrymandered to I don't know if they're trying to make this district look like RFK's brainworm or some sentient blob of white supremacy that's just desperate to avoid black population centers. But that's what it is. They've crafted James Comer's 1st district to look like that. So what's the percentage? 84% white. James Comer's 1st congressional district is 84% white, 7.1% black, 4% mixed race, 2 or more races, and not even 4% Hispanic. It's a wildly white congressional
cover in each of Kentucky's congressional districts. In the 1st congressional district, Congressman James Comer's district, 235,530 are covered by Medicaid, or 32.4%. Now, if you look at the map of his district, again, this goofy, gerrymandered nonsense, here are the number of participants and the share of the population. His particular district, by the way, is way over the average of people living in poverty. But he's not whining about that here because his district is nearly 90% white. 235,530% under 19 who are covered by Medicaid. 38.4% of people under the age of 19. Percent 19 to 64, 51% of those aged 19 to 64 covered by. And percent ages 65 and older, 10.2%. Not a problem because they're white, though, in the mind of James Comer. But if you're black and on welfare, you're lazy and you need to get a job and you're leeching off the system.
So how many people who in among the sellouts and the black people think that about their own people, that agree with not the guy that's giving the facts, but the guy that he's talking about? That's amazing. That's something that, you know, they want a talking point, but he just read out the facts. But when you read facts out, people are quick to deflect, and they're quick to deflect and put on somebody else. And then it was really sad that you got some black people that co-sign with that when they hear stuff like that. And this is why I'm pointing this out. And they say something like this.
So one thing about it, y'all, a hit dog is always going to holler. When I make these videos talking about, racism in America or just racism in general, I get a lot of comments from other white people that be like, I understand where you coming from, bro. I got family like this. I got coworkers like this. And I feel like, bro, in a general sense, whenever I bring up that, I'm pro-black, a lot of white folks automatically think I'm anti-white or some shit. No, I think a lot of them feel this way because, back in the day when people used to mention that they were pro-white, it always meant some KKK, killing, lynching type shit. But contrary to belief, man, pro-black is pro-everybody else, man. Like I said, with the whole DEI thing, man, it benefited white women the most. Anything that is pro-black is going to benefit everyone. Anyways, y'all, man, 2025 just keeps getting crazier and crazier. Recently, there was a Turning Point USA event. If you do not know what Turning Point is, it was the foundation that Charlie Kirk founded, I believe. Erica Kirk was there, a whole bunch of celebrities, and even the vice president spoke, and he had this to say.
In the United States of America, you don't have to apologize for being white anymore. If you're an Asian, you don't have to talk around your skin color when you're applying for college because we judge people based on who they are, not on ethnicity and things they can't control. We don't persecute you for being male, for being straight, for being gay, for being anything. The only thing that we demand is that you be a great American patriot, and if you're that, you're very much on our team.
We are literally regressing as a society. And for one, bro, I have never in my life heard a white person say that they feel bad or sorry for being white. In fact, dog, a lot of them can't even admit the bare minimum that slavery was bad. Have y'all heard any of these white nationalists, Christians speak? I just don't understand this victim mentality, bro. As a white man living in America, you have the most upside ever. The system is literally built around you, but yet you still complain about being the victim every single day. White men are 98% of presidents, 98% of senators, 94% of the Supreme Court, 90% of the House of Representatives, 90% of CEOs, while making up only 30% of the population. Your oppression is non-existent. Like, for real, I don't understand this victim mentality. I'm gonna be honest, bro. I understand why JD is doing this. He's gearing up, to run for president in 2028. A lot of the Gen Z white young kids, they racist. And they will appeal to this. A lot of people love being the underdog. You know, they love being the people that are counted out. We in a time period right now where white people feel like they are that. Despite, like I just listed with all the numbers. So we got people like J.D. Vance, you know, Nick Fuentes, they steady telling the youth that, hey, you're the victim, you're the underdog. And this like gives them a sense of drive and a sense of passion. I see the game that they playing, man. I know what you're doing. Now this whole event, bro, it was like something that you would see in SNL or a parody like Black Mirror's The Boys, because they also had celebrities speaking at this event. Nicki Minaj.
And you have amazing role models like the assassin J.D. Vance, our vice president. And
what does she mean by that? It might be crazy to put out there, but Donald Trump and JD, they might have slimed out, you know, Charlie to get with his wife, and now she bringing up assassin. Sounds fishy to me. What? And just the fact she gonna bring up assassin when her husband was assassinated is crazy work. I mean, what the is going on, bruh? What the?
Right.
What are we in right now? This is real.
Right.
There's nothing new under the sun that I have not heard, so you're fine.
Bro, what is going on? This is hard to watch.
Yes, we did.
This is hard to watch. What? What am I watching?
You have to laugh about it, truly. I have been called every single thing, and you know what? God is so good, you let it roll right off your back.
Anyways, man, during this whole event, she was speaking, tap dancing her ass off. Now, it's funny that she's sitting in the face of Charlie Kirk's wife, because Charlie Kirk didn't even like her.
Nicki Minaj, Cardi B.
Okay, Nicki Minaj is causing dads to leave the home.
Hold on a second. I don't think that's a good role model for 18-year-old black girls. I don't think that songs that are talking about, like, glorifying wet female genitalia is exactly, I don't know which one wrote that song. Which one was it?
I think it was Ben Shapiro.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, but by the way, the role models of the 1940s and 50s for Black America were completely different.
So it is a representation issue.
Hold on a second. No, not representation. It's
now I hate this talking point because it holds a lot of truth to it. Yes, we have a lot of horrible role models in the black community for women and men. But it goes deeper because when you look at who's over these media companies or over these labels, who's pushing this stuff out? Because we also have a lot of positive role models that aren't pushed out. You know what I'm saying? So it begs the question of who's actually doing it.
Who do you get your art from? It's what values are they putting forward? For example, more times than not, black politicians will lament the condition of America. It's systemically racist. It's terrible. What does that do to a 14-year-old black kid if you just find that you hear that everything is rigged against you? Instead, they should be saying, hey, there might be some barriers, but if you believe in yourself enough, you can achieve in this country. It creates a form of social conditioning.
He's acknowledging these barriers, but I get what he's saying as well. You know, that's why I tell y'all about oppression. Like, we do go through things, but at the end of the day, man, we are greatness. You know, fun fact, man, as soon as we got out of slavery, we started building colleges, HBCUs. Like, we are powerful. You know, yes, we do have to go over barriers, man, but also don't let that shit hold you back. I show y'all every day black excellence, man. Black doctors, more black pilots, lawyers, like, we do great things.
Low expectations, and that's not my argument. You know whose argument that is? Barack Obama's.
I don't necessarily agree with everything he said either, man.
Barack Obama said, number one, we need more fathers in the home. This is when Barack Obama didn't go super
Obama's a liberal. I don't care what he's got to say.
Okay, but Barack Obama, then secondly, he said that we can't keep telling our black youth that you can't succeed in this country. Anybody can succeed in this country. And Obama was right when he said that. Obama was correct when he said that we need to change the story we're telling black America.
Now, the last thing I want to bring up about this event is something that is very hilarious to me and also satisfying.
Getting rejected and
so if you don't know what's going on right now, this is at the Turning Point USA event, and they wouldn't let him in. After all that tap dancing, after all that talking about black folks, he's not invited. He doesn't have a seat at the table. His token has been spent. So he's out right now arguing, trying to get in. You know, he's mad. Look at him. Like, that small ass shirt.
So what's happening, David?
Turning Point did a smart thing. They're not allowing Muslims into their conference.
Damn.
He's not been allowed in. Security is, he's calling nobody because no one's going to help him.
Right.
So I don't know who he thinks he's calling. But
didn't you know this was an all-white party? Myron. What's his real name? Ahmad. Andrew, come help me, buddy. What the fuck he gonna do? He barely invited himself. He mixed, ain't it? Damn, that's sad.
He's like, I'm right here.
Bro, why is his shirt so small? You sure? I see why they ain't let him in. What the fuck you got on, bruh? They nigga, like, fresh in the fit. Y'all niggas can't even get fresh. What the oh my goodness. What the bro, look like these
What do you guys, no chance.
This how they be in real life though. Now that is all I'm going to cover about the whole Turning Point USA event. But
shout out to this channel. But yeah, it's so we gonna have to understand the mindset of some of these celebrities, and when they some who be with other people, how they take on the mindset, and it's the result is they going back into whiteness, from blackness into whiteness, and start with some celebrity. In this next video, so that means that a lot of people, that's in some cases, not in all cases, but in this case, check this out.
My little miracle is Beckett. We look great. A month after his 3rd birthday, he got diagnosed with ATRT.
Diana Ross, Quincy Jones, Lionel Richie, Michael Jackson, Eartha Kitt, Sidney Poitier, Lena Horne. What do all these people have in common? If you guessed they're iconic black entertainers, you're correct. But more than that, they are iconic black entertainers whose descendants have become increasingly white. On some corners of the internet, this trend has been dubbed the Diana Rossification of the black family.
What is the Diana Ross effect? The Diana Rossification of the black family is a very real thing.
Look at Diana Ross's family as an example of the dangers.
Why do black people feel the need for white proximity?
Though Diana Ross did not pioneer this trend, she's become the face of it because she loves posting group pictures with her whole family during the holidays. So it's usually around this time of year that people are like, wait, why does Kris Jenner have more black grandchildren than Diana Ross? Whenever she posts these pictures, people can't help but notice that the younger her family members are, the lighter they look. And it's not because they're infants whose melanin hasn't kicked in yet, or they just randomly caught a light skin gene. Most of Diana Ross's grandchildren look white. 150 years ago, these kids could theoretically pass for white. I made a whole video about the misconceptions surrounding white passing, so if you're interested in this topic, you'll probably also like that one. But as I discussed in my white passing video, passing for white was not something you looked like, it was something you did. Racial discrimination is technically illegal now, and the one-drop rule has been phased out as a social law, so no one really chooses to pass for white in 2025. If you are perceived as white, you will be treated as a white person. You no longer have to prove that you don't have a drop of black blood. You are phenotypically a white person, but you have black heritage. And that is the case for many of the descendants of those aforementioned entertainers. They do not look black, but their identity is certainly informed by their blackness in some way. I am not in the business of denying people's ancestry or DNA or blackness, but I don't like people conflating heritage with racial experience because you are ultimately treated how you look. And just because you have black heritage doesn't mean you walk through the world perceived as a black person. When the topic of black Hollywood families becoming whiter each generation is brought up, there is often pushback from the "it's not that deep" crowd. And sure, I would say it's not that deep if it was a one-off occurrence, but it is a pattern and it's not a crime to notice. Also, if it's not that deep, why are you even commenting? Just keep it pushing. I'm not Dr. Umar, even though I dressed up as him for Halloween one time. I'm not here to condemn these entertainers for marrying white people or their family members for looking white. Love is love. Go where you're wanted. With that said, personal preferences don't exist in a vacuum. And I know that because I have spent a lot of time in interrogating what I thought were my own preferences and have realized that they were deeply informed by societal values that I did not come up with. Most of these performers started from extremely humble beginnings and used their talent to secure a radically better financial future for their families. Over time, though, that better future also tends to look whiter. Their rising status pulls them into whiter social circles, which often leads to lighter or white partners, and eventually to descendants who read as white. This pattern isn't the same as a deliberate project to erase blackness, but it is reminiscent of blanquimento, the historical idea that blackness could be whitened out over generations through mixing and social mobility. Here, too, economic success and changing social status end up working alongside romance to produce a kind of quiet, unintended whitening of the family line. I love combining pop culture and celebrity gossip with some sociological analysis, and this is a topic that perfectly encapsulates these two interests. So in today's video, I want to explore how and why the families of iconic black entertainers have become increasingly white. Before we get into that though, today I'm partnering with Climate Power to tell you about the results of elections across the country. Democrats across the ideological spectrum ran on addressing the costs of living under Trump. Affordability is far and away.
Let me stop right here before we go with what she's saying. The reason why I'm putting this together, why this video is going together, because a lot of this is going to focus on black people who have that inner thing to feel like they feel obligated to sell themselves out, but at the same time when they sell themselves out, they become with the people who have the mindset that feel like they can control the people who are like them, and because they think by stepping in agreement with them, like you say in the case with Myron. He wants to be, even though if he could, he can change his color if he wish he could, because you can tell by his talking points, his actions. He's ashamed of his Sudanese heritage. Because why would I say that? Because why would you try to take their talking points, knowing that you're part of a people that these people don't like? It's one thing to disagree with their politics.
The top is family trees of these entertainers. Famous families and the random connections between them is one of my favorite niches. I love fun facts like, did you know that Julia Roberts' birth was paid for by Martin Luther King Jr.? I can't even conceptualize the two of them existing in the same timeline, I think because so much of the imagery we see of MLK is in black and white, but it's true.
The King family paid for my hospital bill.
Not my family.
Not your family, but Martin Luther King Jr. and Coretta.
And the year before he died, Julia Roberts was born.
Machine learning is advancing, but businesses wonder if some machines can keep up.
Let's welcome our new coworker,
Year before he died, Julia Roberts was born. And the day after MLK's assassination in 1968, Diana Ross appeared on The Tonight Show and paid tribute to his contributions to the civil rights movement. So let's start with Diana Ross's family tree. Her oldest daughter is Rhonda Ross Kendrick. Rhonda is the biological child of former Motown CEO Berry Gordy, but Diana Ross was actually pregnant with her when she married a different man, Robert Ellis Silverstein, who was also a music executive. Silverstein knew this and still raised Rhonda as his own daughter. This was a time when image and respectability mattered a lot more, and having a child out of wedlock looked bad for such an aspirational public figure. Also, Diana Ross didn't tell Rhonda the truth about her father until she was 13 years old. By that point, her sisters, Tracy and Chudney, were born, so she clearly knew that despite being raised as full siblings, there was definitely something different about them, and the difference was they were half white and she was not. Berry Gordy was still involved in her life as an uncle figure, so it wasn't too earth-shattering when Rhonda found out the truth. Still, 13 is pretty old to tell someone about where they really came from. Like, it's recommended to tell adopted children that they are adopted the moment you become their parent. Anyway, that's Rhonda, Diana Ross's first child. Then there's Tracy and Chudney, the daughter she had with Robert Silverstein. Later on, Diana Ross married Arne Nass Jr., a Norwegian shipping magnate, and had two sons with him, Ross and Evan. The third generation of the Ross family is where things get a bit whiter. Diana Ross has 8 grandchildren, and only one of them looks black. The rest pretty much look white because they are the product of one biracial parent and one white parent. So genetically, they are more white than they are black. This is usually where the "who cares" and "why does it matter" comments flood in. On an individual level, you're right. It doesn't matter that Diana Ross's grandchildren look like this. It's not a moral failing. But people care because even though it's not intentional, the pattern mirrors a very old, very deliberate project, racial whitening, and that resonance feels uncomfortable. This is where life imitates art in a very striking way. Diana Ross's multi-generational family photos are visually reminiscent of the 1895 Brazilian painting Ham's Redemption. That painting shows 3 generations: a dark-skinned black grandmother, her lighter mulatto daughter, a white husband, and their very light baby. The grandmother lifts her hands to the sky in gratitude, as if the birth of a white grandchild has finally redeemed the family from blackness. The figures are arranged so that the skin tone lightens from left to right, literally illustrating the hoped-for erasure of blackness over time, symbolizing that progress and betterment is synonymous with whiteness. Brazil was actually the last country in the Americas to abolish slavery, which finally happened in 1888. After the abolition of slavery, white elites openly embraced branqueamento, or whitening, as a national project. Influenced by racist science and early eugenics, they argued that Brazil would improve itself if black and indigenous people gradually disappeared through mixing with Europeans. Ham's Redemption was celebrated in that context. Critics praised it as a hopeful image. It was even shown at an international race conference as evidence that Brazil was successfully laundering blackness out of the population. The black grandmother's gratitude isn't just personal joy, it's propaganda. She is literally thanking God that her descendants look less like her. Diana Ross's holiday photos are not eugenics propaganda, and no one in her family is posing to celebrate the extinction of blackness, but the visual similarity is hard to unsee. A black matriarch whose children and grandchildren get progressively lighter, a lineage in which progress is easily misread as moving closer and closer to whiteness. It's that eerie overlap between a loving family snapshot and a 19th century fantasy of whitening that makes the Diana Rossification of the black family feel bigger than one grandmother and her cute grandkids. We've also seen this with the late great Quincy Jones and his family. Jones had 7 children with 5 different women, all of whom were white. In 1993, Tupac actually criticized him for exclusively marrying and having children with white women. Quincy's daughter, Rashida Jones, was extremely upset by this and wrote a scathing letter defending her father. Tupac ended up apologizing to Rashida and shortly after dated her sister, Kidada. He also apologized to Quincy, and at the time of his death in 1996, he made amends with the family and was engaged to Kidada. She described him as the love of her life. Quincy Jones maintained that he never had a type and wasn't only interested in white women. In a 2001 interview with Oprah, he said, "I have been with every kind of woman of every nationality," but obviously his most public relationships were with white women. He went on to say, "Over the years, interracial relationships have been a hip, almost defiant thing, a way of saying nobody can put a boundary on me." And that's the thing. Love is personal, but it's never just personal. Who we're attracted to is shaped by what we've been taught to see as beautiful, respectable, or aspirational. Quincy Jones sent a message with the kind of public relationships he had. I don't think that message was necessarily "I hate black women," the way Tupac once framed it, but it does allude to a much longer history where proximity to whiteness is read as a sign that you've made it. It's important to say that the context around racial mixing in the United States is very different from the Brazilian one that I mentioned earlier. Jim Crow, the one-drop rule, segregation, and anti-miscegenation laws made black-white relationships both dangerous and heavily policed. Within black communities, there was no fantasy that a few generations of mixing would magically produce a white family the way Brazilian elites imagined. But the related logic of colorism was very real. Lighter skin was associated with better jobs, more safety, more respectability, and some families very consciously prized light-skinned partners so their children could stay light, even if they could never be socially reclassified as white. It functioned like a softer internal version of blanqueamento. But back to Quincy Jones. In a 2005 Glamour magazine interview with Rashida and Kidada Jones, their mother Peggy Lipton, and Quincy himself, the family basically lays out how these two sisters in the same house ended up on different racial paths. From this start, they were read differently. Kidara was the darker, curly-haired older sister. Rashida was lighter with straighter hair and green eyes. They grew up in mostly white neighborhoods and went to very white private schools, and that shaped how each girl was treated. As a child, Kidara was teased and singled out. She remembers classmates calling her chocolate bar, hiding her white mom at pickups so kids wouldn't comment, and feeling a chill from her white grandparents that Rashida didn't feel. In the article, she says flatly that Rashida passed for white, meaning other people simply didn't read her as black the way they read Kidara. A turning point came when a white friend tried to set her up with a boy and described her as tan. When they met, he complained that he hadn't been told she was black. After that, Kidara says she stopped fighting it and started identifying as black, full stop. Rashida's experience was almost the inverse. She felt at ease with their Jewish grandparents, threw herself into school, and embraced all her labels, black, white, Jewish. But her lighter appearance came with its own problems. White people said anti-black things around her, assuming she wasn't black. Black and white gatekeepers in the industry told her she was too exotic for white roles and too light for black ones. In the interview, she talks about the pain of having people insist she's not really what she says she is, being, in her own words, rejected from both sides. Those early experiences also helped shape who they gravitated toward. Once Kidara transferred to Fairfax High, a mostly black public school, she describes finally feeling at home. Black classmates, black families, black boys, people who loved her hair and skin instead of treating them as problems. It makes sense that she would go on to date black men and eventually be engaged to Tupac Shakur, a rapper who was openly critical of how black men with power chose white partners. Rashida's path bends differently. She has long moved comfortably in white and Jewish cultural spaces and has often been read publicly as white or racially ambiguous. Today, she's married to Ezra Koenig, the lead singer of Vampire Weekend, a band made infamous for its waspy aesthetic. This doesn't take away from her blackness.
I'm going to stop right here. So, the deeper issue with some black people, start with celebrities, is that it's something that's deep wounded. And some black people may not understand, you know, they were proud to be black, but this also mentality from when she showed the history of Brazil, America had the same mindset. And in my video, I showed that there were interracial couples in the 1800s here, during the time before certain places before before Jim Crow. But it's the mindset of some black people that when they go over, and I got a few people in my family was like that they don't really want to be to the black side. And not only that they don't want to be on the black side, they start taking on the mindset of some of these people who are white. You know, Tia and what's that one? Yeah, the two twins. They used to be on Sister Sister. One was married to a black man, and she got divorced. One's married to a white man, and they're identical. But they say that the one's married to a white man, he has some bigotry in him, and she go along with his bigotry. That's what it's, that's what's allegedly they said, and and that's a whole different topic with the twins over there. But the reason why I think some people sell out is something deep wounded in black people. When you, it's hard to pick someone up of a different race. However, you have to look deeper while you're doing it. Do you really love this person, or is it just an exotic fantasy? And hopefully you don't take on the mindset of these sellouts, trying to pick which side of the party you're on. Because when you're in America, it don't matter. And you see how they lived as children when they go out to everyday society, part of a mixed product of a family. They society make you choose, and then they can say insensitive things like the young lady was saying. That's why I said there's another side. There's some people who are sellouts, don't understand that. I told you a story one time. I dated a young woman back in my early 2000s. She was raised on the white side of her family. She really didn't know about her father's side of the family. And I think that really affected her. It affected her in a way, you know, she in her white family, they just had to contain with it. And being from the lower part of Kentucky, in these towns where even the other white people knew that this part of lower Kentucky, they were prejudiced. And she went through some things, so you can only imagine a mixed race person, what they hear in a mostly white household. And I feel bad because her father, who was black, it's sad that he wasn't in the picture to reassure her, because it really made a big difference in her self-esteem. You know, and if you're going to go out there and be like that, don't take on as black men and black women. You can be with them. You can have the same mindset as them. Doesn't mean that everybody's going to accept you out there. And now you're seeing what happened. That even if you agree what their talking points is, they still going to see you as black. You can sell yourself out. You can't stand your own people, don't even like your own color. But you don't understand. You're the opposition. Even if you talk talking points like some of these people that talk against their own people, it's going to come back and hit people in the face. Because since you might have a personal disagreement with what they're saying, you can only sell out for so long. But you see the results of it with some people that do. If you do marry outside your race, be balanced. That'd be my advice. Don't be one side or the other side. Because when it comes to having a family, and it changes the mindset and the children. Expose them all, especially mixed race. Children of two different ethnic backgrounds, because America is one of the countries that is a foundation on race. The two opposing races, and dark and light. Every is not just every other race was taught to go to light. White supremacy is kind of like a mindset, but it affects the other. Not only did it affect black people, but it had the Latino people, the Asian people, the Arab people, and all these other people. The lighter you get to that, you want to be in a certain class. But if you have your darker ones melanated, it goes to the left. And that's internationally wide in different countries. But you see the foundation based on skin color. That's why I said skin color don't matter. Yes, it does. To some people, it does. And then they project it on the next generation about what that call those people out who are the darker complected people. That's how next generation know about how to be obnoxiously a racist person to somebody who has a different tone in their skin. And then once you traumatize with that, you have some black people say they either bleach their skin like what Michael Jackson did, or maybe they go to a little trauma. But if I can slide over to white, even though I'm saying I'm not saying I'm trying to be white, but I'm bleaching my skin, saying that's albinism, and then I'll go ahead and adopt the kids and did everything. It's something that's in that person. So really, some black people are sick. Who want to think like that pay flavor over the light skinned and the dark skinned child. That's something the slave master put. See what he did to the black people, like other people. White supremacy did that. That's how they hit you psychologically. They think that in TV, images, religion plays a big part of it. I believe so. It's nothing wrong with being in a nice, good neighborhood and being around other people. But you know when you go into those predominantly good, well-to-do neighborhoods, you know ain't going to be too many people that look like you. That's why you do it. You don't do it for the right reasons. You do it for the wrong reasons. But it's very seldom you meet black people that try to be balanced. And there are some black people that are even who are spouses of the same race that have that sellout mentality. It ain't good either way. Because you're there for the proxy. You're like a bumper shield to ward off the other people, excuse me, being racist. You're being used. It is what it is. But after they use you no more, like if they got to get extreme like Nick Fuentes, we don't need you no more. Just get out of our white space. They told Myron, get out of our white spaces. Trying to validate themselves, trying to be against your own people that look like you. But there's some people who are white, that these races, it's a race war in their mind. That's why they want to do stuff like Return to the Land, because they want to keep their kids out of that. But what's silly about it is, you don't have to do something like that. There are still, and throughout the United States, people are going to be nice to you. They're not going to tell you, but you know why you go into rural America, across America. It don't take two to figure that out. It's the cheaper living, of course, and maybe the utilities are different, taxes are different, but most of the people are going to look like them. Might have different ideologies and political position, but that's why. That's why when they kill or leave home, they don't know, and they meet people of different origins, they don't know how to react. You ever meet people like that are white? Some are white that are like that. It's the environment. And a lot of these people who are sellouts don't understand that. You can have good friends, be almost like family, but that's as far as it go. But they're not going to share their bloodline with you. They can share their friendship with you. They're not going to share their bloodline with you. Think about it. All right then, ladies and gentlemen. Till next time, take care. And black people need to think about the ones who do that. Think about what being a sellout is. Being called by your own people. It's not going to be a good ending on either side, because you're going to be by yourself, dejected and alone, in an isolated world. So love yourself, love your people, love your skin. Till next time, take care.